Hey guys, welcome to game 2 between Gen.G and Afreeca Freecs. It is again LCK Summer 2018 playoffs round 1. Yesterday I uploaded game 1. Unfortunately I didn't upload it with the right title, but it has been fixed now, so you actually know that it is game 1. Now I'm going to be VOD reviewing game 2. We're gonna run it on 1.5 in terms of speed, so that we get through it a little bit faster, so you don't have to look at me talking for nearly an hour. So let's just jump straight into it, right? So in game 2, it was basically Gen.G focusing, in game 1, it was Gen.G focusing a lot on trying to scale up to the late game. They wanted to go there and then win over Afreeca Freecs. They simply couldn't do that. And they just ended up falling flat after they started to lose a lot of towers. They wanted to try and minimize their amount of loss in terms of gold in the early game, and they couldn't do that. Last time around, their biggest problem was pretty much no one on Gen.G. Nobody really fought back. Ambition was hard. He was, what's the right word? Let's say he was hard dealt with, I guess you can say. He was hard shut down by Spirit. Ambition played Talia and that just didn't work out. So that was a bit problematic for them. So now, this time around for Gen.G, they need to focus much more on having engage. Last time around they had a Severe and Rakan, if I remember correctly, and that was okay in terms of engage, but the problem was that Afreeca Freecs, they had a lot of counter engage, so even if Gen.G didn't want to run away, they couldn't do that. So I'm liking the Varus and the Braum right here from Gen.G. That's a very strong bottom lane. It also brings you a lot of the engage that you need. And I like Trundle because he is a flex pick, of course. Usually goes into the jungle, but with him being a bruiser slash tank, he is actually able to also become a frontline in the team fights while still being somewhat relevant in terms of early game power and prowess for Gen.G, so that they can, well, at least try to fight back against the Afreeca Freecs. However, for Afreeca Freecs, I'm super happy to see the Swain right here. Yasuo is okay. He is, of course, super strong if you snowball with him. Okay in team fights as well if you're not ahead but just even. But I really like Swain. In terms of mid laners or just ability power carries, I really dig Swain, Vladimir, Ryze, and Zoe in the current meta. All because they are so good at controlling the lane that they are in terms of pushing and in terms of making sure that the minions do what they want them to do. Let me tilt down my webcam, there we go. So, I'm really digging this Swain. Now, Kramer can send that down to the bottom side, like he did in the last game. Varus isn't very mobile, so you can very much control this Varus in the bottom side if you're able to land a good Q, if I remember correctly. I can't quite remember the name, but if you're able to land the fist that flies out and get that onto Ruler, well, then already there you are able to deal so much damage. So something that would fit them so well inside of Afreeca Freecs would be a Pike right now, because then you get even more kill potential. You allow for the Swain to rip out shards of his enemy as well, and Swain can hold his own in the bottom side. So if you get that Pike, well, then suddenly you have someone who could very much roam. Problem is that obviously they have that Alistar, so it's not really something that is relevant for them to pick that Pike right now, unless they want to send him into the mid lane, of course, which I very much doubt. So Alistar and Swain is still a kill lane, just not as heavy as someone like Swain and Pike. A lot of good carries on the side for Afreeca Freecs now with that gangplank coming in from Keen. Keen played Quinn in the last game, had a great performance against Kuve's Jarvan, which was unfortunately very lackluster from him. Now it's a lane that has been focused a lot around the Wombo combo of having Kuro get that big ultimate off So I'm digging this for now for Freecs. I think Gen.G have a much better composition this time around. Now they actually have engaged with not being able to flying around, or you can even start up with a chain of corruption, or you can land a sleepy trouble bubble from fly. You have a front line now as well. You have a more consistent damage threat coming in from both the Varus and the Zoe, so they're not as much reliant on luck, quote unquote, in this game as they were in last game, and they have some more streamlined ways of engaging. For Freecs is again going to be a game of tempo. That's what they're very much going to be looking at. Because if they can get towers in the early game, if they can start to get a load of gold onto their carriers, if they can start to actually oh well, it's probably gonna come. If they can start to get a lot of gold onto their carriers, then they can get the items that they need. And someone like the Yasuo or Swain, I wouldn't say is very reliant on items. Obviously they all want items, but they just have huge power spikes whenever they get an item of their own. So they would very much love to get those items here early on. For Gen.G, again, it's about holding the fort. They don't want to give up towers. They have a much better late game combo. They are all about getting to that late game, having team fights with Fly and Ruler, the Sora and Varus respectively. So if they can make sure to not lose towers early on, if they can make sure to just farm up, well then they can actually be relevant once you hit those 25, 30 or even 40-minute marks. I think that the Freecs will probably be successful in knocking down those towers. In the last game they showed great macro play by rotating around and pushing in the lanes that needed to be pushed, which was just very amazing to see from them. Okay, we have a pause. Let me skip over that real quick. Hey, there we go. So that obviously was very good for them, which meant that they could get those towers and the gold that they needed. So I'm thinking that we'll probably see that again. Lethal tempo coming in from Ruler is smart. You're going for an auto attack Varus, so lethal tempo is the best point you could go for. Alternatively, you could have gone for what was it called? The one that heals. Yeah, whatever. You could go for the one that heals, because then he would have better sustain against this Swain, but that would be all about the laning phase. Anything that stands out? Wait, is that a Predator on Spirit? Okay, so I actually want to look at this real quick. So looking over domination, yeah, that's okay. So that's a Predator on Spirit. Now that's unusual in some senses, because that means that he's going to have a lot more movement speed. Not something you see very often on a Gragas, especially not considering that you probably want to be frontline in this team. Now that's going to be interesting to see what he can make of that, because that's obviously some great ganks. But besides that, I think it's very standard. I'm still surprised to see that Predator coming in from Spirit. I mean, like, it gives him a lot of movement speed. It makes his ganks better, and he can gank more often, quote unquote, because he's able to have more movement speed. Yes, of course, it has cooldown, but it just helps him to get ganks off more often, as he can then run faster into lanes, and that means that there's a lot more tempo for him. Going to be interesting to see how it pans out. I'm happy to see some minion dematerializers come in from Gen.G. If you haven't, you can check out my video about the minion dematerializers and why I love those minion dematerializers and what obviously you should use them for. And I think that in a team like Gen.G, who wants to control the tempo of the game and not lose any towers, it's quite what would you say? It's quite necessary for them to have those minion dematerializers to control the minion waves easier, but also to get that extra damage to those minions. So I really like those minion dematerializers coming in from Gen.G. For someone like Zoe, it's also quite necessary to be able to kill these minions, as you are the primary wave clearer coming in from Gen.G. So having the extra 6, possibly 11 or 12, I can't quite remember, extra damage to minions will help you a lot. Wait, Ruler? Did he flashed forward? Holy. He's going to be in so much trouble here now. The Spirit is coming. Yeah, that has to be the... Okay, so, okay, that's a bit too reckless for me. Okay, so look here. He flashes forward, thinking that he can get the kill. That's fine, but he misses it. He doesn't even have free procs in terms of his W on him. So, that's super reckless. You have no vision over Spirit. Like, what are you even going to do right here? I do have to say that I think it's a little bit of a misplay from Core JJ too. Like, Core JJ, he had his exhaust up. He could have exhausted Spirit and probably made it so that Ruler could get out of there. Because then he would have slowed Spirit, and Spirit probably wouldn't have been in range for a flash body slam. I do like understand why you want to put it onto Spirit after he flash body slam, because then you reduce some of his damage. But come on, mate, like, you could have saved your indicator right there. See, if you put the exhaust on him right there instead of waiting for so long, he would never have caught up to you. For now, Ambition hasn't really been active in this game. I don't think it has been hurting Gen.G at all. Again, for him, it's all about making sure that the lanes are doing fine and that they aren't being killed and losing towers. So I like how he's been putting priority on scuttlecrabs. I think the best thing that he would do in this game would be to not look for ganks, but just to continually invade onto Spirit. He is better. He does have the press the attack, so in a long drawn out fight, he will deal more damage than someone like Spirit. He can wave clear in the jungle fairly fast too, and if you take away the camps from Spirit in the jungle, well, then you also deny him resources, but you also deny him the ability to get levels and therefore be strong in those ganks. So I think Ambition is just playing too passively, playing like he doesn't really know what he should be doing. At least it feels like that for now. Obviously, he also has to deal with his own camps, yes, but for now, hasn't really done anything in the last, 2-3 minutes, whereas Spirit has been at the bottom side. Quite obviously, it was a little bit of a lucky scenario, if you can say it that way, that Ruler flashed in the bottom side and put himself up to be punished, but still, like, he has been active. He's been doing way more. Now he's also been stealing away your blue buff. What has Ambition been doing? He has cleared his own jungle, and he's been looking towards the top side blue buff. Yes, now, and that took him like 40 seconds to realize that his blue buff had been taken. That shouldn't happen. It should be immediately. Fortunately for him, I feel like they do come out ahead because they give the blue buff over to Fly. But with the tempo enhanced and control over the bottom side, Freecs, they can just push into the bottom side. Like, it's all about, again, it's all about giving up vision to get it into your own. Well, give up vision and get something in return. Right here, they give up complete control of the bottom side. They know that the Spirit should be around the bottom side because he has just taken away the blue buff. They should have communicated that. So they should play safe on the side of Ruler and Core JJ, or at least have some vision in the jungle to make sure that they know if Spirit is coming. Like, they have a ward there. Spirit came from around that side, so it's only this ward that will spot him. And even though you're standing under a tower, you still have to remember that you're against the gangplank with a cannon barrage, that you have a Swain and an analyst star that you have to go up against, and those two guys, they can deal a load of damage to you if they get onto you. It feels a little bit like Gen.G are playing as individuals and not as a team, and that is what is killing them. Like the only one that's doing great is Fly, but he hasn't been dealt with in any way in the bottom side. Okay, so look here, like they're being pushed in, right? So they're preparing the waves. That's fine. Ruler, wait, choosing Flash didn't get it. Okay, that's a bit of a misplay. Anyways, they were preparing the waves. So Ruler and Corgi, they should have known that they were about to get dope. Like Spirit had just taken the blue buff just a minute ago, so would probably still be around the bottom side. Ambition invaded onto the blue buff, so they knew that he wasn't up there. Like, come on, guys, that is just sloppy play. So what I was saying, okay, so yeah, Fly is the only one that hasn't been dealt with in this game by Afreeca Freecs. He's just been pushing relentlessly against Kuro. Kuro now being down around 20 CS, perhaps 23 CS. Does hurt him a lot in terms of like having those power spikes that he needs, and does give GEN.G their shining hope in Fly, because this virus is just so far behind at this point. Like, he's about to get his Blade of Ruin King 11 minutes. Well, not even 11 minutes. He's going to get it around, what, 13. So that's a virus that is quite far behind. And a Sori that's doing well. Ambition, though, still hasn't been doing anything. Hasn't been helping his lanes at all. It's all been Fly and Cuvée that has been doing it on their own. That's why they are ahead. Whereas Ruler and Corgi, they haven't been supported at all. And Ambition has just been farming. Like, it's a very individual show for Gen.G. Fortunately for them, they haven't started to lose any towers yet. The Freecs haven't gone for a Rift Herald or Drake. So it's all Gucci for now. But like with the kills that they are getting on Kramer, it's just a matter of time before they start to group up, before they start to go for an Ostrich like here, or start to group up for towers. Like, they are so strong that they can very much fight against Gen.G. Then Gen.G should not be contesting this at all. What are you doing, Gen.G? Come on, look here. Ruler isn't in the fight. Alright? Cuvée has no teleport. Obviously, he has a tempo advantage because he is already rotating down, so he will be able to join the fight earlier than Keen. But Keen at least has the cannon barrage, so he can be active in this fight. So right here, you basically have a 5 versus 4 fight, right? Until 3 versus 5 actually, until Ruler joins up. So what are your plans here? You have no way of getting into the fight. You don't want these drawn out fights. Fly is your only strong member, and he's about poke. Like, I'm not quite sure what Gen.G they were thinking of getting right here. Alright, so he didn't get the last standoff, fortunately for. So for Gen.G, fortunately, they didn't get the last standoff on Kuro. So like, look here, like you have Ruler who's slowly coming over, but that's about it. They just got the Drake, and no last stand coming in from Yasuo. And when Ruler comes in, they have to back off. If they had gotten that last stand, they would have been able to kill Corgi, and then Kramer also not being able to use his ult or this target means that they lose a lot of burst damage. Freecs, they do get the Ocean Drake, so they do come out ahead. They lose a lot of summoners in terms of flashes, but that's pretty much about it. And I think that getting the Ocean Drake is a good thing for them, because they want to take down towers, and if they have more sustain, then taking down towers becomes so much easier. Now, Phantom Dance are being completed by Kuro, and Rod of Ages stacking up on Kramer. He has had it for around 4 minutes now. Means that some of the power spikes that they are looking for has been reached, and now they can start to really group up. Like, Kramer right here is super strong and will only become stronger. He also has a Ninja Tabis. You have Kuro with the Phantom Dancer, who is also going to be wanting to look for split pushes in the side lanes, so just shoving in lanes, because he has a lot of crit, yes, but also Phantom Dancer is enhancing his ability to duel. On the other side, Gen.G, they have the Luden's Echo in the hands of Fly, so he can poke a lot, but that's pretty much around it. About it. And they don't want to look for these drawn out fights. Ruler not going for the Arcane Comet virus, so he will not be able to enhance the abilities of Fly to poke, whereas he's just going to be looking for auto attacks and team fighting. Now he also has the Blade of the Ruin King, so obviously that means quite a lot for him. It's just very late that he actually gets this item, which again means that it's just been allowing the Freecs to get control over this game. But fortunately for them, they are still doing fine in the top lane and in the mid lane, and they're playing off of that. And the Freecs, they can't do that much because of the control in the mid lane and top lane. Unfortunately for Gen.G, Ambition is caught out of position. Kramer has no teleport, he's running Cleanse and Flash. So Freecs, they have to be careful here. Yeah, okay, so Ambition getting caught out. Had the Flash, so could have gotten away from that gank. Not quite sure what he was doing in that area anyways, because they don't have a lot of vision right there. So he was just standing quite in the open and basing and allowing himself to get punished by Afreeca Freecs. Last stand again is up. And now Kramer is here, so they can actually fight. Kramer does have his ult as well, so that's probably gonna be a kill. No. Okay, no. But yeah. Okay, so Kramer did roam all the way up, and because of Kramer roaming all the way up, they do have a man advantage. Ruler being in the bottom side means that they just simply can't fight on the side of Gen.G, and they lose the Rift Health. Now they start to lose towers too, and that's exactly what they can, because again, like in last game, if they lose towers, well then they lose gold, and they allow for Afreeca Freecs to win the game. Super good fight. Man advantage coming in with Kramer coming here. Fly also being caught out meant that there was simply no way that Gen.G they could fight in this. Fight in that fight, because Fly is their only really strong member with that CS advantage, which is quite problematic. Yeah, look here. This is exactly what I have been saying all game. Jungle participation, or what's it called? I know that this means that he's been in lanes. So he's not been very active, like, overall, compared to Spirit, who has, what, that's 55 more seconds than Ambition. He's also been ganking quite more. So, like, what has Ambition really been doing in this game? It feels like nothing. It feels like he's just been farming. And he's even behind in terms of farm against Spirit. He's behind in experience, and obviously we have reached the point where teams are grouping up, so it's unfair to say that Ambition could be even with Spirit, but still, like, you could have had a much more active early game, which Ambition simply just hadn't had. And it feels like Gen.G, they have kind of not had a plan going into this game. Big problem for Gen.G to fight in this position. Like, they don't want to fight in these very close quarters, and if they do so, then they will just be killed by Kuro's last stand, and by Kramer's ult, and even the cannon barrels. Like this, Gen.G, they should not be fighting in those areas. Right here, look. So look here. You have 4 members that are grouped up, right? All you need is an explosive casket coming in from Spirit to knock them all up, or a good Alistar flash, right? So they should know this. They should know that there's a flash up on Alistar and that they can't group up. You have all your summoners on the side of Gen.G. You don't have a Mega Gnar, so obviously that puts you at a disadvantage too. And if you get knocked up, Cannon Barrage is gonna come in. Like, you are dead right here. So Tuzin, that's all he has to do. Flash in, allow for Yasuo to use his ult, allow for Keen to get his ult off too, and that is pretty much that fight. That is how that Afreeca Freecs, they win fights by great coordination, like they just had there, and by abusing the fact that Gen.G, they're grouping up and they're playing like a headless chicken, kind of. Like, it doesn't feel like Gen.G, they have that big of an idea about what they should be doing in this game. And like, again, Fly is the only one dealing damage. Kuve comes in, deals damage too, but he's not a Mega Gnar, so he can't use his Gnar, his ultimate, and actually help his team. Ruler got caught out early on, and even though he's auto attack based, he just couldn't do anything. If he's caught out early on, then he won't be able to do anything. He's not bursty. And on the side of Freecs, it's just a team effort to win that fight. Like, so much damage coming in from them. They know that the way that they win fights are through having a long extended fight where they can use their bruiser-ish composition. And now with them starting to get towers, like they're only missing one inner turret that's up in the top side. They have a lot of Freecs as well, so it's looking great for them. Now Kuro with the Guardian Angel and the Phantom Dancer, he's going to be a super good split pusher. So send him out to the side lane, and the rest of you can group up. Keen doesn't have to group up unless you really want to hard force a tower. Then he would have poke. Then he would have the necessary poke to force towers. But else it would just be more efficient for them to have Keen and Kuro split push while the rest of them they group up. But they have an 8 kill advantage, 6,000 gold lead. Gen.G, they are in big trouble. They want to wave clear, but their only wave clear is really in the hands of Fly. And he can't be in 3 lanes. So teleport coming in, there's... yeah, okay, that's a really good play actually from Gen.G. Great play by Gen.G, coming in with the teleport from behind by Kuve. Like, that definitely helped them a lot and bought them even more time. Unfortunately, they can't really get anything out of it because they can't go for the Baron. There's no way that they can push onto any towers because you still have Kramer and Keen up. But just denying the Guardian Angel away from Kuro is quite big and will help them a lot into the coming fights. Next Drake will be an Infernal Drake. Freecs would love to get that one, and they have everything that they need to get that. Gen.G should not be fighting against the Freecs anytime soon. Should just be biding their time and try to scale up as much as they humanly can, which is not a lot. Baron is also a focus for Freecs, and that's why they're placing down a lot of vision around it, or at least in the river, to try and make sure that they can turn onto the Baron if they get the chance to do so. Like, if they just get one pick, then they can start to pressure around the Baron. Keen has his teleport up too, so they have a teleport advantage in that sense. Obviously, getting the Drake would be a first step, but they can solo it if Kramer and Keen, they group up around it, then they can just solo that one, while the rest, they still push up in the top side and try to place vision around the Baron. Like, Baron would be the best scenario for Freecs right here, because if they can get that Baron, then they can actually siege. Like, they have a very abysmal siege right now. No real ranged champions. They have Kramer, but that's kind of about it. All they can do is really team fight, and obviously they can hard dive any towers. They can force their way to take these towers down, but that's not necessarily what you want to do. Wanting to play more calculated, more safe, would be probably the best choice for Freecs, as then they wouldn't give up unnecessary kills to Gen.G. So Baron, again, we're just going back to that now. Double Infernal Drake on the sands of Freecs. They are incredibly strong at this point. 3 items on Kramer, 3 items on Keen, 2 items basically on Spirit, and 2.5 items on the side of Kuro. Like, this this lineup of Freecs, they are super strong right now. And Gen.G, they just have to be afraid of them. They can't fight, they have to wave clear, but they can't give up the Baron either. They're pretty much damned if they try to fight against the Baron. Sorry, fight against the Freecs when they're trying to take the Baron. And they're also damned if they don't try to do that. So for them, it's all about just pushing out the mini waves whenever they are pushed in by Afreeca. Make sure that they aren't being pushed in any lanes, because then they will have to respond to that. And then just try to clear out as much vision around the Baron as possible. Like, if they can do that for 10 more minutes, 5 perhaps, 5, 10 at the maximum, then they will actually be able to fight back against Afreeca in this game. Then they will have a few more items to work with, like Ruler now, 2.5 items, you have 2 items on the side of Fly. So they are starting to actually have a relevancy in this game. Kuve being caught out, pushing all the way up without any vision at all. That's not exactly what you want, Kuve. That punishes your team so hard. Cannon Barrage coming in from Keen, and like they can, of course, deal away this blue buff, but with Kuve going down the bottom side, they have the inner track onto that inner turret. And now Keen can really start to lay down some pressure onto that bottom side, as he can push all the way into that inhibitor turret. And that's a 10,000 gold lead for Freecs. So right here, Kuve has no vision, is overextended, and well, quite obviously just goes down because the rotation from Freecs. So with a 10,000 gold lead, it's starting to look even more dire from for Gen.G. It's starting to look even more dire for Gen.G. Fortunately for them, they were able to clear out some of the vision around the Baron pit after Kuve died. So at least now they have bought even more time for themselves. And the Freecs, they have to reapply all of their vision. Kramer taking a lot of damage. That's also quite good for Freecs if Gen.G, if they can poke out the members of Freecs. Oh no, Gen.G. Okay, that's going to be a Baron. Like, it's a problem that you lost Ambition and Core JJ already from there, and that you engaged. That's quite weird for me to see Gen.G engage. But Fly going down means that there's no way that Gen.G, they can actually try to contest this Baron. Like, Fly is all your poke. There's no way that Ruler and Kuve, they can actually contest this Baron. And right here, that was just like the final touch from Freecs. This game is officially over. There's no way. So look at right. It all starts with Kramer being poked out, which is great. Like, that's exactly what Gen.G they want. If they can poke out these members on the side of Freecs, then they can buy time for themselves. So that's great. What isn't great is that you don't have Kuve there. So you don't have a possible Mega Gnar. You don't have a frontline. And Ambition really doesn't have any crowd control to work with. Core JJ is the only one that can save you. So a great casket comes in from Spirit and divides the whole team of Gen.G. So that's a bit problematic. They lose Ambition very early on. And right here they just need to disengage. Core JJ unfortunately gets picked. And instead of disengaging, Fly says, okay, let's fight. And he goes for a fight. He tries to kill Kuro, but Kuro has a Guardian Angel. Like, right here, Fly, that was unnecessary. And you just lost yourself a potential comeback in that game. Like, of course you would have lost this Inferno Drake too. But because of you dying, you just gave Freecs the last resource that they needed to get that Baron. And that's what they got right here. And now Gen.G, they just died left, right, and center. There's 3 members dead. There's 20 seconds before Ambition respawns. This could very well just be the game, or at the very least, the first inhibitor of the game for Freecs. And because now Ambition, they don't take Freecs, they don't take down towers very fast. And Ambition has respawned. Same goes for Kramer and Kuve. But they still have 1 minute and 50 seconds left to work with here on the Baron. So Freecs, they have pretty much everything that they need now. Like, inhibitors down, that makes the sieges much better. Still a little bit of time left to work with on that Baron, probably not going to be that much. But cracking open the base with that Baron and making sure that they now can actually push in is exactly what Freecs they wanted. Now, all they had to do is group in the bottom side, have someone like Kuwei or Kramer or Keen, you decide on your own, push in the lane, push in the minion waves in the mid lane and in the top side, and just make sure that Gen.G they have to split their focus between the bot side tower and you pushing in the mid lane, because if they don't deal with you in the mid lane, then you will lose in Nexus towers, you will lose the Nexus ultimately. If you don't deal with the bottom side, you will lose another inhibitor. So it's again a pretty bad situation for Gen.G, and I don't see them coming back from this. They are behind 16,000 gold. Like, you are behind 3 Infernal Drakes too, and you want to scale up, but you're also against a Baron up team, so like there's no way that they can win these fights. This should probably just be like the last fight. Look at the mid lane, it's pushing in. Look at the top side, it's pushing in. Look at the sustain coming in from Freecs with that Ocean Drake. There's nothing that Gen.G they can do. They just they just used a lot of resources in that bottom side, and the tower is still super low. Like, this is GG, well played, Freecs. Super good game, super good control once again. Slowly just taking down Gen.G, and with good macro plays, finding the kills, finding the towers, and Gen.G playing like individuals. Ambition not being in this game at all meant that there was no way that Gen.G they could actually have anything to do in the early game, and the early game was just all on the shoulders of the individual laners from Gen.G, and you need your jungler to help you in this early game, but there was no help to come from Ambition. But yeah, I think that's going to be the VOD review right here. So that's a victory from Freecs. As I said, just very well played by them. Them showing that they can find towers, find kills, that they can punish Gen.G by not having a jungler present to try and help them win those lanes that they had to win, or at least come out even off. They couldn't lose the towers, but they lost them too early on. They gave up a lot of gold to Freecs, and because of the gold, they got the tempo at Freecs, that is, and they got items, and items meant that they could then push very far ahead. But thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. Please follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to this YouTube, and I will try to upload more videos. But for now, have a great day, guys.